What's up guys, this is Miasin. So today I wanted to go over something that I think people don't really talk about, and it's the fact that even when there's, a really expensive engine out there in Yu-Gi-Oh! That you feel like you really have to play the same way people are playing, there might be always a budget alternative that is almost equally just as good. Sometimes it's not even like that much worse, and sometimes it might be even better. So just because you can spend the money doesn't necessarily mean you should. So even if you're playing online, sometimes like the cheaper option can end up being better. Now, there is a reason why I'm making this video. Is because I'm not the one who actually came up with this idea. This was brought to me by Blake Morrison, so shoutouts to you if you're watching this. But he essentially told me before the NAWCQ that he was only playing one Fiendsmith Engraver, which was very interesting because when I showed him my deck list, it was 3 Fiendsmith and then 3 Tractus. So I was maxing out on all the expensive cards from, the Infinite Forbidden set, and he was only playing one Fiendsmith monster. So we pretty much took completely, opposite directions. And I found it to be pretty interesting because, by playing 2 less monsters and 3 less spells, he's spending like, he's saving what, like $400 or something like that? A huge amount, pretty much. And his deck was just as functional, if not probably potentially even better than mine. And I decided to extrapolate this way of thinking to other decks, so whether you're on a budget or not, you might be able to do the same thing for your deck. Meaning that you're pretty much only playing one copy of the Fiendsmith and nothing else, because you always have access to it with your Nightmare package, basically, Moon of the Close Sky and Fiendsmith Requiem. By the way, the only reason why this is something that you can really do is because of this card right here, Necroquip Princess. But even without this card, you can still go into the Fiendsmith sequence, and you're going to be able to shuffle back the Engraver, the Moon, and the Link 1 in order to summon DS Irae. So even if you play 0 of the spells, no Luri, and only one Fiendsmith, any 2 monsters can, lead to a big Omni Negate in the form of DS Irae, which is pretty nasty. Not to mention that on top of saving money, you're also putting yourself in a position where you might be in a very good position post the ban list, because if cards like Beatrice get banned, or even if Caesar gets banned, or whatever else gets banned, you're not gonna really feel any collateral damage because all you really invested was one Fiendsmith Engraver, and even if this card goes down a little bit in value, it's not like you're losing the value times 3 and also the value of the spell card. You're only losing a little bit of value on the Engraver, which, to be fair, I don't think this card will ever get banned. If anything, maybe like one of these cards might get banned in the future, so either Moon of the Close Sky or Fiendsmith Requiem, but that never happens after the first set of the engine existing. It's always going to be a couple of sets later because they still have to push the sales of the new product. Anyways, let's get into what I personally believe are the best decks to be able to play, a very compact Fiendsmith engine. Alright, so first things first, Snake Eye, obviously, that's the first deck that comes to my mind because Blake did it, so why not you? Yubel can also do it, although I will say the Fiendsmith engine is pretty nice in Yubel because obviously the monsters that you're getting, they're Fiend, so you can also make Yama. It's not like you're just going to the Fiendsmith combo. So that's the reason why maybe in Yubel you still want to play a lot of Fiendsmith cards, because they're just nice extenders overall. And you can also fuse into the Aerial Eater, which is something that the other decks usually cannot go for. And there's a lot of nice options that you can foolish with Aerial Eater. You can even send cards like Invader of Darkness, and then go Muckraker, Revive back. And then if you're playing against Runic Stun, well, they can't use any quickly spell cards. So that's not too bad for you. There's a lot of like random things that you can do, or you can send the Samsara D Lotus, and then you can also go Muckraker, Revive. So you don't have to rely on Beatrice anymore. And again, you can just go into that using only 2 monsters, or 1 copy of the Fiendsmith, or just the Tractus, or even Fabled Luri. Now, I never really considered this deck to be a combo deck or something that could really go into complicated combos, but Tenpai Dragon, it's not like it's locked under anything other than Genroku locking you under Dragon only, if I recall correctly. With that said, if you go into the white and then search the Quick Play, the Kaimen, and then you search the Chundra and then special summon it, you're not locked under anything, so you can go into a Hieratic Seal, into any Link 2 of your choosing, and you could go into the Moon of the Close Sky, and then the Requiem, and then summon the Fiendsmith from the 100 deck. By the way, again, this card, if you only play it as a 1-of, it's not a Garnet, it's Attack at Tomborg, so if you draw it, it's fine, because this card can also summon from the hand. Anyways, you summon this, and then you equip your Link 1, and then you go into Necroquip, and then revive back the Fiendsmith by shuffling either one of these cards, and then you make any rank 6 that you want. So you could go into Caesar, which is a double negate, so you pretty much have the choice between Hieratic Seal or Caesar depending on the situation. But if you're forced to go first, this could be a pretty nice option for your deck. Or if you have a really explosive hand, you could go into Hieratic Seal and then go into Caesar, which would be like 3-4 interruptions in a in Tenpai Dragon, which is really weird. But yeah, you can, again, you can kind of think, like, try to make this work in pretty much every deck out there, like even Cyber Dragon, random decks that have nothing to do with, you know, the actual Fiendsmith combo, that are not even trying to make Beatrice, just because these rank 6 monsters are really good. Even Kashtira, for example, could go into it, but this would be a little trickier because sometimes you're locked into Xyz only. But if you're not, if you can go into Draco Sack, and then summon yourself, you know, 2 Link Spiders, and then go, well, so summon 2 tokens, and then go into 2 Link Spiders, and then link off into this, and then make a rank 6, that could make some really nice, nasty boards. The Sprite deck, same thing, and just because you get yourself a lot of bodies, but this is also going to be a little tricky, just like Kashtira, because this is locked under Xyz. This is usually locked under level / rank / link to monsters, so you're gonna have to go for your Caesar combo or whatever before you activate Starter or Gigantic Sprite. So keep that in mind. In Labyrinth, you could also play a very small, again, small, I want to say Fiendsmith package, because the extra deck space, just like all those decks out there, out here, is very loose. Like you get to play like 5, 6, 7 cards on top of like the other cards they were already playing before, like Chaos Angel, Muckraker, etc. Just because you don't really need much in Labyrinth. You don't really use your extra deck almost ever. But this deck can also play the Unchained Engine, which is arguably just as good. So you don't really need to play 1 Fiendsmith monster. You can just play 1 Sharvara and 1... I think it's Abominable or Escape. I forgot. It always changes. Nah, actually, I think it's Escape in that deck. But yeah, no, you have some nice options, I want to say. In Memento, you can do the same thing if you don't want to play like too many Fiendsmith cards. This deck is really good at just summoning a bunch of bodies, and it's, again, never locked under anything. So you can just turn 2 bodies into the Fiendsmith combo, and you make Caesar, which, again, is very good in a deck that would lose to Nibiru, because you can rush this, and then you keep your extenders for later. And then once you summon the Caesar, then you can start extending, and you don't have to be afraid of Nibiru. So this is pretty much a replacement for Appaloosa. So again, even if Appaloosa gets banned, Caesar will be the new Appaloosa. That's pretty much generic, because again, 2 monsters can turn into something that can check Nibiru. It's kind of like how 2 level 4s can go into Traptrix Rafflesia, but people were never really doing that because, well, you would have to play a rank 4 deck, which is not something that is super generic. Rescue Ace, another deck that can, you know, do this, although I don't really think people are even playing that deck anymore. And finally, Salamandrate. Well, I mean, I'm saying finally, but there are so many other options. For example, yesterday, I made a Mimighoul combo video and deck profile, and I showcased a bunch of combos of me pretty much only playing 1 Fiendsmith monster, no Tractus, nothing else. So it's really just 1 Fiendsmith card, which, again, I know it's kind of funny to say that the Engraver, which is supposed to be a starter, is a brick, quote-unquote, when you draw it, because it's just a 1-of that can't use its effect since you don't really have any targets for it. But you could also play 1 Sanctuous, the Sanctus, the quick play spell that summons a token. So therefore, even if you draw the brick, at least you can get yourself the token card, and then you can summon the token, and then it doesn't really do much, but whatever, you get the point. And yeah, by also playing only 1 Fiendsmith, you're making it so that you need way less cards in your extra deck. So for example, if you only need Caesar and Necroclip and Requiem and the Moon of the Close Sky, you don't really need any other rank 6s. Or you could also play Constellar Ptolemy M7, or just play M7 and no Caesar. So that would be 4 to 5 cards in your extra deck that you need to dedicate. Whereas if you're trying to play a really full-fledged Fiendsmith package, your extra deck space is going to be super tight. Because you're going to need the DS Irae, most likely, the Lacrimosa for sure, which burns for 12, which is really annoying, the Sequence in order to fuse, but again, without, you know, without multiple Fiendsmiths, without the spell card, without the Luri, you don't really need those cards, because all you really need wouldn't really be the Link Climbing, but rather just the 1 rank 6 monster. And again, you don't really have to play Beatrice. As a matter of fact, Beatrice is not going to be even that good, because you can't send Fiendsmith Lacrimosa since you don't play it. Therefore, you can't send Angel Blue Tears because you can't burn your opponent since you're not playing Lacrimosa. Yeah, I explained this the worst way possible, but you understand what I'm trying to say. You could also play Pilgrim Reaper, right? So that you can turn any 2 monsters into a way to mill 5 cards. So in a deck like Tear Elements, for example, you can randomly, at any moment, turn 2 Tears or 2 whatever monsters, 2 garbage cards, into a way to keep milling more cards. Yeah, it's kind of nice. This is, again, the reason why I really like splashable engines. They really allow for a lot of creativity. The one drawback with splashable engines is that the top decks can't play the splashable engines, and they always abuse them in the most like cancer way possible. And yeah, also last, if they ever ban the SE Ray, which I really doubt, or I don't know, like the Link 2 or the Fusion, you could play Evil's or Lars, which is also an Omni-Negate, but it's worse than the SE Ray. Or you can play Dragon Lark Perrin. Back in the days, people were going like Beatrice, Send, Artifact, Scythe, and then they would summon Dragon Lark Perrin. It was a combo in the virtual world, and then they were reviving back the Scythe on the opponent's turn. But yeah, all that to say that, you know, even if you're broke, you can still play the best engine in the game for very cheap. You just have to be a little more creative. You can get away with only playing one Fiendsmith monster, and it should work very fine. If anything, like I said, sometimes it's even better to only play, you know, I guess to play the cheap way out instead of, you know, paying to win, because sometimes it's not even pay to win, it's pay to lose. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace.